you ever driven across the Golden Gate Bridge? Have you been to San Francisco and seen the bridge? Well, if you have, I hope that today you will be inspired by the information our guest is going to share with us. His name is Bharat Kanodia. Is that correct?
Kanodia.
Kanodia. And he is going to tell us the worth or the value of the Golden Gate Bridge. He unveils the why in valuations, and I cannot wait to share him with you. Welcome to Conversations with Jenny and Bharat.
Jenny, thank you so much for having me.
So I saw a video you made on the Golden Gate Bridge, and I must tell my viewers, the Golden Gate Bridge is not the only bridge that you have valued. You have valued most of the famous bridges in the United States, although today our focus is on the Golden Gate Bridge. Because I find this subject so fascinating, I am hoping that you'll come back and talk to us about some of the other amazing structures, bridges and buildings, etc., that you have valued in the past. So tell us, how did you get involved with doing these huge projects and valuing them?
Purely by accident or luck or generosity of people. I was 24 years old, sitting in my cubicle, minding my own business, pretending to work. And my boss walks over and he hands me a thick proposal saying, "Hey, Bharat, we've got a contract to value the Brooklyn Bridge." And I was like, "Oh, fantastic. Great. Who's doing it?" He's like, "You are." I'm like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Paul, you know I have never appraised a bridge in my life, right?" He's like, "Yeah, you'll figure it out." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Anything else?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm also going to give you 3 guys to help you, but you have to train them because they have never appraised a bridge before either." I'm like, "Oh, all right. Oh, great. Thank you. Anything else? Do a good job." And he walks away. So that was how I came about appraising my first bridge, which was the Brooklyn Bridge. And since then, I have appraised all kinds of interesting, unique things in my career. I name drop not to impress you, but to impress upon you that anything and everything could have a value. Some of the unique assets I've appraised are like the Alaskan pipeline,
Wow.
the battery tunnel, the tunnel that they show in movie Men in Black, Will Smith is walking through that tunnel. I've appraised that tunnel. Of course, the Brooklyn Bridge, the Grand Central Station, Atlanta Airport, Mirage Casino, Uber,
Yes.
AirBNB. So
We are going to be doing a few segments, as long as you are willing.
Okay.
So I wanted today's focus to be on the Golden Gate Bridge because I live in San Francisco and I've crossed that bridge so many times. And it is, I must tell you, quite spectacular. And here's a little story I want to tell you about it quickly. I came to San Francisco through a marriage. My husband was a dentist who had come to the Caribbean to practice dentistry on the underprivileged citizens. And we went to see a movie while he was in Trinidad, where I was living at the time. And there was this bridge in the movie, and he goes, "That's the Golden Gate Bridge." And he was so excited to share his Golden Gate Bridge with me. And then when I came to San Francisco and I saw it, it's very difficult to really express the emotion. It was something of, I shared his pride because it was so beautiful. And since then, you live here and then you just it just becomes another bridge. But I knew so little about it that I'm excited today to learn along with my guests some of the details about this bridge that because it's what you do. So I just can't wait to hear.
What fascinates me, Jenny, is today we look at this beautiful engineering piece of art, and it almost seems like it's always been there, right? It's almost like the hills of San Francisco or the peninsula area. It's part of the landscape. It was always here, of course. The early settlers, when they came in, it was there. No, we put it up there. It was part of the Roosevelt's New Deal. It was built during the Great Depression. And it wasn't like Roosevelt thought of it one day or one of the people thought of it. They had been going back and forth about.
Was that in 1937?
Yeah, the bridge was opened in 1937, started in 1932. It took 5 years, but they had been talking about building a bridge for 20 years. But you know how those public work projects are, right? I mean, it takes back and forth, and there's referendums, and there are votes, and this and that. And basically what was happening is, people were using ferries to go from San Francisco to Marin, and the ferry company, they did not want a bridge. So they fought tooth and nail. They, put together like 2,000 lawsuits against the bridge, basically overwhelmed the system so much that you couldn't put a bridge. So anyway, the project got slowed down. But once the depression hit, then sometimes, you just need that kind of a catalyst to invigorate everybody and the voter pool. And everybody said, okay, well, you pretty much have a blank check from President Roosevelt. What can we do to create jobs in San Francisco? Well, we could build a damn bridge we've been talking about forever. Well, let's do it. The votes went through, everything just, the right time at the right place, right? Mm-hmm. And the bridge construction started. And at that time, they had the right architect who had the right clout and the zeal to get it done. What was the name? Strauss. It got started. I mean, you see the bridge today and you feel like it's been there. No, it's human ingenuity and, perseverance that built it.
Well, I'm aware that it has yearly maintenance and it's very costly, I'm told. And based on some of my research, the charges that you pay now to cross it are usually in support of the repairs. Am I correct?
Right. So the Golden Gate Bridge's current revenue is about $145 million. And the cost of maintaining and upkeep and staff and everything is about $85 million a year, which gives them a nice healthy profit of 60 some million. But that doesn't include any of the capital expenditures. So that includes maintenance. So for example, painting the bridge, that's part of maintenance. So that's included in the
right.
85 million cost. But say if they have to repair the underdeck or if they have to repair anything special, that's not included. So, the 60 million is all part of CapEx projects that go in.
Well, I watched a video you did on it, and you said, if you want to buy the Golden Gate Bridge, this is how much it will cost you. So tell me, who owns the Golden Gate Bridge?
Well, the Golden Gate Bridge is run by the Golden Gate Bridge Authority. I forget the full name. So the way you think about it is, if you think of Golden Gate Bridge as a business, and it gives you a profit of $60 million. What else could give you a profit of $60 million, right? Mm-hmm. You could buy AT&T stock worth $800 million. Or you could buy the Salesforce Tower, which cost about $1.2 billion to put in. Probably gives about 60 million a year in rent. Or you could buy, U.S. government bonds for about 1.5 billion. So as a business, the bridge is probably worth about, $1 to $1.5 billion. But if you were to replace the bridge, so God forbid, under some hideous circumstances, act of God, the bridge were to come down, we'd have to rebuild the bridge. I mean, you got to have a bridge. I would be most disappointed if the leadership thought that we don't need a bridge there anymore, or build a smaller bridge or something like that. That's bullshit. But if you were to replace a bridge today, just with everything that goes around, I would say at least $10 billion to replace that bridge. That is also, of course, if there's not too much public debate that goes on and the project isn't held up for another 20 years, right? If you look at the bridge, I mean, I've looked at the bridge intimately. I mean, pretty much as intimate as it gets. I've seen the inside workings. I've seen those. I've seen the anchors on each side, and there's a reason why we have such big anchors, because that's what's really holding the bridge together. The pillars, if you see the north pillar and the south pillar, the north pillar is much closer to shore. It's actually right next to shore, so it's not that difficult to build. It was difficult, I mean, of course. Mm-hmm. But the south pillar that you see, it's about 1,000 foot out. So it is really in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Actually, worse, it's in the middle between the Pacific Ocean and the San Francisco Bay. And
that is so fascinating.
And the currents are crazy. I mean, the currents are ebbs and flow. It could go, 8-10 knots at one point, and how crazy windy it gets there, and the water isn't exactly warm. It's not a jacuzzi. And you have all kinds of wildlife there. So it's almost, I mean, I can't believe people actually built that damn thing.
Yes, I would love to see if there's any footage or anything on how they did that when they were doing the foundation of that bridge. That had to be so fascinating. Now, you have evaluated so many bridges in the United States. How would you rate our Golden Gate Bridge?
Well, when the Golden Gate Bridge was developed, at that time, it was the longest suspension bridge in the world. And by suspension bridge, I mean suspension bridges, longest meaning the distance between the towers. Now, the Verrazano Bridge in New York is the longest suspension bridge in America, which, by the way, I have appraised as well. And Verrazano Bridge is longer, but it was built 30 years later. It was it was completed, I think, 1965 or 66, if I recall. And that is that had different levels of complications, because there you have different problems, because it gets cold in New York. It gets, it literally goes down below freezing. And then the area where they built the Verrazano Bridge is really urban. It's going from Staten Island to Queens, or Staten Island to Brooklyn, Staten Island to Queens. And all those boroughs, they're highly developed urban areas. So you got to build a bridge between those boroughs. And at the same time, New York Harbor sees a lot of marine traffic.
Right.
So you had to account for all the ships going in while you're building a bridge. So it's just fascinating, because if you start thinking about, so what I need to do when I'm doing my job, Jenny, is I need to put myself in the shoes of the architect or the engineering team at that time, and really think about that. All right, if I were to be given an open checkbook like Roosevelt had done at that time, how would I go about doing it? And it's almost like putting yourself in the Strauss's shoes and saying, all right, how am I doing that? And then you go block by block and lay it all out. Because unless I'm doing that, I'm really not doing my job.
Bharat, did I hear you say it took 7 years or 5 years for it to
5.
five? 5 years, 5 years. That is still so fascinating. I mean, I'm intrigued by it all because every time I travel across it, I always think to myself, what amazing people are existing and have existed in the world to have created something like these, like create projects like these bridges, like the Brooklyn Bridge you mentioned. You've also appraised that. I have actually walked across that. I was in a taxi that said it was overheating, and he stopped in the middle of the bridge and put my girlfriend and I out. So I was able to appreciate the beauty of that bridge as well. So the fact that you sound like you're nationally famous for this, are you the only person appraising these bridges, or do they get many appraisals before they put the statistics together?
Let's just say that I've been fortunate or unfortunate that I am one of the few people that have done this. I frankly don't know anybody else who's appraised anything like this.
So the details that have been published about these bridges, apart from the construction crew and company, comes down to your research and your expertise.
Correct. So I take public documents that are made available to me when I am appraising such assets. And of course, I do my own research and put together that, all right, well, this is what it cost then. And if they were to do this now, how has technology evolved? How has design evolved? And what might we do today? So if we were to replace the Golden Gate Bridge, we would probably want a similar bridge with similar functionality, similar look and feel, but with maybe better materials, maybe better design. For example, the east span of the Bay Bridge is not a suspension bridge. If you notice, the design of it is a little different than the suspension bridge. It is called a cable stay bridge, which is the latest design. So they incorporated the latest design. So, you know, they might do something like that. So that's the level of research I need to do and dig into things.
I was going to ask you, how does the Bay Bridge compare to the Golden Gate Bridge? And I know part of the answer. One, the technology is much older and more ancient, although we're constantly maintaining and adding changes to it. I'm sure those changes are modernizing the Golden Gate Bridge. But how would you compare the two bridges? One is cable, like you say, supported, but and one is more modern. But as an expert who has the ability to know the details about both bridges, what would you say are the differences?
The biggest difference is the Bay Bridge is further inland. The Bay Bridge is literally built inside the bay, whereas the Golden Gate Bridge is the boundary between the San Francisco Bay and the Pacific Ocean. And the water is 200 to 250 feet deep at the Golden Gate, versus the Bay Bridge. I mean, the water is deep, but it's not crazy deep. It's probably 40, 50 feet. And the currents by the Bay Bridge are not as crazy. The water is still cold, but the currents are maybe 2, 3, 4 knots on the worst day. By the Golden Gate, the currents are crazy. I mean, 8, 10 knots. And the wind by the Golden Gate Bridge can also be blowing 20, 30, 40 knots at a time. Bay Bridge, not so much, just because it tends to be a little inside. It has a little more protection. On the other hand, the Bay Bridge is connecting far more urban area. If you notice around the Golden Gate Bridge, it's more open land because it's all preserved. So they're different. They're apples and oranges.
Got it. Because you can look at them and they look different, but I just wanted to know, as a technical person, what was different, that wasn't visible to the naked eye, like someone just looking at it? That's why I asked you that question.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that you would see, I mean, on the Golden Gate, you only see two pillars, two supporting pillars. Versus on the Bay Bridge, there are four on this side, on the west side. And on the east side, there's only one because they redesigned it with only one supporting column. And that was deliberately done because the technology had evolved, and they could use a stable cable stay construction instead of a suspension construction.
So my next question, I know the answer, but I'm going to ask you because when I first came here and I went to see it, my husband kept telling me, look at the Golden Bridge, look at the Golden Gate Bridge. Can you see it? And I kept looking and I go, I don't see it. And he goes, oh, come on, Jenny, how can't you see it? It's right there. And I go, I see a red bridge. Where's the Golden Gate Bridge? And so I wonder how many people come to this country with doing what I did, looking for a Golden Gate. So my question to you is, why is it called the Golden Gate Bridge?
There are many stories around that. First, let's talk about the color. There's a reason why it's orange, because they wanted the bridge to stand out against
the background. Orange?
It's called international orange, the color.
Oh, okay, okay.
So if you notice, many of the football jerseys are orange, or, many things that really need to pop are orange. So it was designed as orange so that it stands out for traffic and marine traffic and air traffic, and against the arid backdrop. So if you see the marine headlands,
yes,
on the north side of the Golden Gate, those are pretty barren and yellow in the summertime because it doesn't rain here in the summertime at all. So the bridge really sticks out. It is called the Golden Gate. From the stories that I know, I don't know the right answer. I'll share the stories that I know.
Okay.
And there are two stories that I've heard. One is the body of water between North San Francisco and South Marin, which is the boundary between San Francisco Bay and the Pacific Ocean. It's called the Golden Gate Channel.
That's what I've been told.
So the bridge on top of that is called Golden Gate.
Right.
The other version of the story is, and I don't know anything about mythology or religion, but from what I have heard, is in Judaism and in Jerusalem, there is something called the Golden Gates, which is someplace either is the beginning of the journey of a soul or end of a journey of a soul. And, the pearly white gates, as they say, which is the entrance to heaven, is called starts at the Golden Gate. Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, they all are really derived from the ancient religions. So that was sort of brought into the naming of the bridge as well, but who knows what's the real answer.
Okay, well, thank you, because I'm sure there are some people who, like myself, have wondered why it's called the Golden Gate Bridge if it's not golden. So you have been living in San Francisco how long?
13 years.
Okay, did you come out here to evaluate the bridge?
No, I've been traveling to San Francisco for a long time. I started my career in 2000, but I had been traveling to San Francisco, appraising all kinds of assets. So I have appraised the county of Napa. I have appraised the county of Monterey. I have appraised the city of Beverly Hills. Of course, the Golden Gate Bridge. So I was always brought in to value or appraise unique assets that most other appraisers wouldn't know how to do or wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole because they were scared of it.
Well, you and I have, thank you. You and I have something in common. I am not afraid to start something new that I know nothing about. But when you look back on the day your boss walked into your office and put this assignment on your desk, a lot of people would have been perturbed and they would have had a very negative approach to it. Like, how could he give me a project I know nothing about? This is not what I signed up for, but I loved your attitude. It's the kind of attitude that I love that I'm trying to spread. You took the bull by the horns and look where it's led you. What do you want to say to someone who might be the age you were when you were assigned this project, that is given a project that is clearly, they have no knowledge, experience, or tools to cope with? What do you think was in you that just embraced it and now you are unique and famous for appraising big projects?
Frankly, Jenny, what I did, it wasn't like I was extra smart or I was extra motivated. It was just something I had to do. My boss tells me I need to appraise a bridge. All right, I'll figure it out how to do it. I just had that attitude. And I never took my eye off the ball. I just always focused on the fundamentals. So the fundamentals of valuation, that doesn't change, right? I mean, there's a lot of noise around, oh, I mean, I could appraise this cup versus a Golden Gate Bridge. It doesn't matter. The fundamentals stay the same. So I just kept my eye on the fundamentals and I never lost sight of those. So then the asset keeps changing, it doesn't matter.
Thank you. I'm so happy that that was your answer, because the whole point of why I do this show is to show people attitude is everything. Life is 10% what happens to you, 90% what you do with it. So if you have a terrible attitude, you're not going to get very far in life. So you had a perfect attitude. Your boss came to you with the project and you've never evaluated anything, and look what you're doing now. And so I'm really happy that was your answer. And thank you for sharing that with us. Which was your favorite project to appraise?
I had to appraise all the assets owned by the U.S. Forest Service at one point.
The forest?
Department of Interior.
Yeah.
Under that, you have U.S. Forest Service, which owns all the forests owned by the U.S. government. So I was called in to appraise anything and everything they owned. That was an interesting project.
How long does a project like that take you?
I think it was about 3 months.
That's it? Are you working with a huge team of people?
No, well, I mean, I had a small team, but it's not like, Jenny, I'm going to each forest, right? I mean, you do some sampling studies for getting a feel of what you're seeing, but it's mostly on paper. I was sitting in Washington, D.C. at, KPMG office because we were collaborating with KPMG and working through all these numbers. But yes, I did a few site inspections as well, but those are only one-off just to make sure that the data that we have, the sample is checking out. We can't go around and inspect all the forests and all the trees. I mean, that would be, something that couldn't be completed in a lifetime.
So that was your most challenging. That was your favorite. Which was your most challenging?
When I did the Grand Central Station, I had no idea. I'm like, when you appraise the Grand Central Station, I mean, you have all these paintings on top, and then you have that, copper clock in the middle, and you're like, oh, all right, I could throw any number at this. So the copper clock that they have in the middle,
yes,
Grand Central Station, the ticket booth.
Right.
What is the clock worth? Give me a number. I don't know. So, but I had to appraise it. I'm like, all right, 100,000, 200,000, $500,000.
So you can throw any number at these things?
No, I can't throw any number at this, but I have to come up with a number that is reasonable. And of course, my number is going to be better than anybody else's number because I have the experience and I have the qualifications and I know the formulas that go into it, right? So I have to think of it from different perspectives. Yeah, I mean, there are all these fancy chandeliers. I'm not an art appraiser. How the hell do you appraise a chandelier? Because those aren't just chandeliers. Those are chandeliers that were, built like 120 years ago. Those are irreplaceable. So what is that chandelier worth? I don't know.
So how do you come up with the number? Do you go and do some research online?
Well, I talked to a few, art appraisers and some building appraisers, and I say, hey, if you were to build this, what would it cost? I don't know. Somebody said $1 million. I said, okay, well, it's an antique. So what would an antique like this cost? I don't know, 2 million. I said, tell you what, let's do 3. How's that number sound? And then I confirmed that with an art appraiser. And, she said, yeah, 3 million sounds about right. I'm like, okay, 3 million. So as I said, I don't have all the answers, but my job is to make sure that the answers I do have, those are corroborated by different sources. That, hey, this is what I think it is. And based on this source, this doesn't sound unreasonable. Based on this source, this doesn't sound unreasonable either. So, okay, this sounds about right.
Have you ever had someone say to you when you've turned in the appraisal, this is not realistic?
All the time.
So how do you refute that?
Well, it's your opinion against mine.
And I'm the expert, so shut up.
No, well, that's not how I generally handle it. But at the end of the day, it does come down to it. Hey, you hired me for my expertise, right? There's a reason why you're writing me a check for giving you this. If you disagree with it, it's fine. No big deal. We don't have to all agree with everything. But if you want me to change my opinion, you're going to have to give me different facts or tell me why I'm wrong. Just don't tell me that I'm wrong. I'm open to listening that I'm wrong because I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, help me understand why. What am I missing here? You've seen my calculation. Do you have a calculation? Well, okay, if you don't have a calculation, you have an opinion. I got a leg up to begin with. But if you have an opinion, if you have calculation, show me. Let's discuss it. Show me where I went wrong. But most people they don't have facts. They don't have calculations. They just have opinions, which is sad.
Well, of course, I always say to my friends, if I'm arguing with you and if I'm insistent, you better believe I've got my facts. I don't argue when it's just an opinion because I know I'm just throwing hot air out there. So I get my facts together before I argue. So I completely get what you're saying. Now, the Golden Gate Bridge, when you had to evaluate that, it's more than a mile, isn't it? Like 1.7 miles or something in length?
1.7 miles, yes.
1.7 miles, okay. When you have to evaluate something like the Golden Gate Bridge, don't you physically have to come and scrutinize it? Because you could miss something, right? I mean, if you don't come and scrutinize it, how then are you able to capture its true value and not undervalue or overvalue it?
I can appraise any asset without ever visiting that asset anywhere in the world.
By using the blueprint?
By using the blueprint, using the pictures and everything. But if I am not doing a site inspection, if I'm not visiting that asset and spending time there physically, I feel I'd be doing a disservice to my client.
Of course, I agree with that. I wouldn't pay you.
Because I might have missed something. My job is not just to do a desktop something. My job is to come up with something accurate. Right. So I do all my work in the background. I do all my homework. I crunch all my numbers and I come up with an answer that I think is right. I don't share that answer with anybody. That's just answer that I have. And then I go and actually spend time there and look at it and just, really spend time that, hey, what's happening here? How would you do it? Be there physically, be in the moment. And then I go back and check my numbers. I'm like, all right, does this now feel right? Yes, now it feels right. Okay, then I share it. because otherwise I'm not good at my job.
So we live in a very litigious country. Have you ever been taken to court because someone thought you undervalued their whatever they hired you to appraise? Tell
No,
me the truth.
no, I'm not.
No. Okay.
I'm-
Is this because a lot of what you evaluate are government owned?
No, I do a lot of private company work too.
You do.
And I have never been sued, touch wood, because it's my opinion.
And they're paying you for your opinion.
Yeah.
They're paying you for your opinion and your expertise.
Correct.
And they're hoping that their end result is a combination of them both.
Correct. They're paying me for my opinion. That's what you wanted me. You're not paying me for an opinion that is same as yours. You're paying me for my opinion.
Because your opinion will hold up in a court of law.
Correct. And not because of who I am, just because of my experience of I've done this. You know, a judge would otherwise, if I was like 21 years old and I walked in, a judge would be like, who the hell are you? But I've been doing it for 20 years. I've seen all kinds of weird things and assets, and I can talk through them. And I can tell somebody that, where the cracks are or where my analysis has weaknesses. I share that. Because of course, my analysis is not 100% foolproof. It's not bulletproof. There's always weaknesses. Even NASA's plan has weaknesses, but you always have backups and you always have support, and you always have ranges and tolerances that, okay, yeah, this is not perfect, but I think this range is reasonable. You just have to work with the information you have.
Do you love your job?
I do, and I'm good at it.
I like that. Confidence. I'll hire you. We're almost out of time. What have I asked you that you think it's important that people know about your job and about the Golden Gate Bridge? Because that's our focus this time.
No, just if you visit the Golden Gate Bridge, just put yourself in the shoes of steel workers, iron workers, 80 years ago, and just think about what they had to do and go through to build a piece of engineering like that. Imagine what their wives and families went through to see their fathers or husbands just hanging off a rope. Think about that. That's just not anybody. Those were real people. Many people died. Many people almost died. Imagine how they felt.
I heard that people die now while they're maintaining it during maintenance. I heard like a few years ago, someone fell and died while they were doing some repairs to it. And it's known as this place where people go for suicide. I think it takes courage to jump off that darn thing. It's really high.
Yeah. I would think there would be easier ways to commit suicide.
Exactly. It's like easier ways than to go jump off of that. I could imagine the impact. So, of all your years of being an appraiser, what is the one thing you've learned from doing this job that the average person is oblivious to or just never exposed to?
Valuation is always a range. People always think there's one answer, that's the number. It's never one number. It's always a range.
Okay. Well, this has been a really inspiring interview for me. I've learned a lot because I didn't know that people actually appraise places like Beverly Hills or Los Angeles. I mean, have you ever evaluated San Francisco really quickly before we wrap?
No.
But you live here.
Hey, that's just the way the cookie crumbled. I live here. I love living here, but I have done County of Napa, County of Monterey, which I'm very grateful for. So I got to know those places intimately. I've been going to Napa since I was 21 years old. It's amazing. I've seen Napa evolve over time. And the Napa I knew back in the day is not the Napa today. Back in the day, you could walk into a winery and get a free tasting. Nowadays, it's like $40 for a tasting. And, the guy looks at you funny, and they're not very friendly. It's just become very touristy. It was not Napa 20 years ago. Napa was very, very friendly.
I got carded the other day when I tried to buy some wine. So that's a feather in my cap, and I'm keeping it there.
Did you tip him nicely?
I did. I thought he was being funny, but anyway, he insisted. So I gave him my card. Well, I am really grateful to you. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I have. This has been a really huge education for me because there is so much that, every day we drive across a bridge or we go to a place and we never even think about its value. Until I saw your video, I was just fascinated. One last thing, you mentioned if you want to buy the Golden Gate Bridge, is it for sale?
No,
Would it ever be for sale?
probably not. But if we were to make a hypothetical case that if you were to look at the business at the bridge as a business, what would it be? But as a public asset, hopefully they will never privatize it.
Right. Well, it's making money, so why would they? And it's not owned by one person, so that person is going to croak, so somebody else has to buy it. It's the government. Thank you so much. I've really appreciated this, that you took the time on Monday for us to do this. And I'm hoping that when I put this interview up there, people will have a new appreciation for the Golden Gate Bridge and for a lot of bridges that they cross every day. And thank you so much for watching Conversations with Jenny Lynn, when the conversation is all you need to be inspired. And today, I have brought you inspiration and education. And I can't wait to see you next time with another fascinating guest. Thank you.